importance of the study of epigraphy or the inscriptions. The study of inscriptions is known as epigraphy is one of the most important primary sources for reconstructing ancient and medieval Indian history. Inscriptions are writings engraved on durable materials such as stone, metal, clay, wood, pottery, etc. Unlike literary texts, inscriptions are usually contemporary records and therefore provide direct and reliable evidence about the past. Their study helps historians, archaeologists, scholars to understand political, social, economic, religious, and cultural aspects of the earlier civilization or the contemporary times. Inscriptions are also an authentic and contemporary historical evidence. Inscriptions are considered primary sources of history since they were created at the time of the events and they are the witnesses of the events that took place. They describe they are less likely to be distorted by later interpretations or exaggerations. Royal proclamations, administrative orders, land grants, and commemorative records preserved in inscription give first-hand information about rulers, dynasties, and important events. This makes inscriptions more reliable than later literary traditions. The Ashokan inscription belonging to the 3rd century BC provides direct evidence of Emperor Ashoka's reign, his administration, his policy of Dhamma. These inscriptions are more reliable than later Buddhistic literary accounts. Inscription also helps in reconstruction of political history. Inscriptions play a crucial role in reconstructing political history. They provide details about name of the kings and the rulers. We have about the Indo-Greek kings. Most of the kings were known for the inscriptions inscribed on the coins. Genealogies and dynastic succession, military victories and territorial expansions, administrative system and governance of the contemporary times. For example, royal inscriptions often mention titles assumed by the king, helping historians understand the nature of kingship and political authority in different periods. For example, the Prayaga or the Allahabad pillar inscription of Samudragupta, composed by Harisena, gives a detailed account of Samudragupta's military campaigns and territorial expansion, helping historians reconstruct Gupta political history. Inscription also helps in understanding administrative and economic systems. Many inscriptions record land grants, tax exemptions, trade regulations, and donation to religious institutions known as agraharas. These records help scholars understand firstly the revenue system and taxation, land ownership patterns, trade and commercial activities, role of guilds and merchants. Thus, inscriptions offer valuable insight into the economic structure and administrative machinery of ancient societies. For example, the copper plates inscriptions of Cholas and Pallavas record land grants to Brahmins and temples, revealing details about the village administration, taxation, and revenue system of the period. Inscription also helps us in understanding social and cultural history. Inscriptions shed light on social organization and cultural practices. They mention various social groups such as priests, artisans, merchants, warriors, and women. From these references, historians can understand the social hierarchy of and the caste structure, status of women in the contemporary society, occupational groups and professions existing cultural tradition and customs. They also reflect the values and ideals of the society that produced them. The example is the Nasik cave inscription, which records donation by merchants, bankers, and women, showing that non-royal and non-elite groups actively participated in religious and social life. Inscription also shed light on religious beliefs and practices. Religious inscriptions provide information about temples, monasteries, deities, rituals, and religious donations. They help trace development of religious institutions, spread of different religions and sects, patronage given by the rulers and common people, religious tolerance and syncretism. The, the Sanchi and the Bharut inscription record donations made by lay followers to Buddhist stupas, indicating the popularity and spread of Buddhism among common people. Inscriptions also help in ascertaining chronology and dating of historical events. Inscription often contains precise dates based on regalia, eras, or astronomical references. These dates help historians establish a chronological framework for historical events. They are especially important in periods where literary sources are absent or unreliable. The Aihole inscription of Pulakesin II, dating to 634 AD, helps date the reign of Pulakesin II and provides chronological account of his conflict with King Harsha. Inscription also help us understand language and script. The study of inscription is vital for understanding the evolution of languages and scripts. Many ancient scripts and languages have been deciphered through inscription. Epigraphy helps scholars trace the development of scripts, understand linguistic change over time, reconstruct extinct languages. This contributes not only to history but also to linguistics and philology. For example, the Brahmi script used by Ashokan inscription is the earliest deciphered script of India and is the ancestor of many modern Indian scripts. Inscription also help in corroboration of literary sources. Literary sources are corroborated and authenticated with the help of inscription. Inscriptions often confirm or supplement or correct information found in literary texts. Sometimes they challenge traditional narratives by presenting alternative evidence. This cross-verification strengthens historical research and leads to a more balanced understanding of the past. The Junagadh inscription of Rudradaman first confirms the existence of Saka rulers in western India, supporting and clarifying information from literary sources. Inscription also serves as insight into art and architecture and cultural history. Inscriptions found on monuments, temples, and sculptures provide information about builders, patterns, and date of construction. They help historians and archaeologists study the architectural styles, the artistic patronage, technological advancements. Thus, inscriptions are closely linked to the study of art history and archaeology. For example, the temple inscription found at Brihadeshwara Temple, Tanjavur, records Rajaraja Chola I's patronage and provide details about temple administration, endowment, and rituals. Inscription also serve in preservation of local and regional history. Many inscriptions record events of local importance and are not mentioned in major historical texts. These records preserve regional histories, local rulers, village administration, and community life, ensuring that the voices of smaller regions and groups are not lost. Numerous Tamil Brahmi inscriptions preserve information about local chieftains and communities of early South India. Other features of study of inscription. It is a reflection of history and literature. Its inscription itself is a form of literature. Inscription throw light on Pali, Prakrit and Sanskrit. Ashokan inscriptions are not of much literary importance, but we cannot discount it to be completely not being a literary source. Vasistha Putra Pulamavi's Nasik inscription and Rudraraman's Girnar inscription can be considered earliest form of prose. Patanjali's Mahabhashya pushes the Kavya style to 2nd century BC. Kalidasa's Mangalcharan referred in Aihole Prasasti of publication in 864 AD. Ravikirti created Aihole Prasasti. Umapatidhar, popular in Bengal and Orissa region. Rajsekhar is a Gurjara Pratihara inscription. Jaydev Gidgod. Trivikram Bhatt Bagumbra copper plate inscription Gujarat wrote Nilakampu, known from the copper plate who he made for Rashtrakuta king Indra III. Most commonly quoted writer in the inscriptions is Kalidasa. Gupta inscription reflect poetry form, and it was during the Gupta period that the poetry was majorly used in the inscription. Prasasti. Prasastis are not accepted as literary form. They are composition of court poets and they are mostly exaggerations, but it reflects Kavya style. There is no uniform dating pattern. Kavya style is the most commonly preserved style in Prasasti. If the prose is small, it is called Khanda Kavya. If the prose is long, it is called Mahakavya. Dramas. Dramas are also mentioned in the inscription, like Lalit Vigraha Nataka by Samadeva, a court poet who composed a drama in honor of Chauhan king Lalita Vigraha Raja II, belonging to 12th century AD, is mentioned in the inscription found at Ajmer. Similarly, Harikeli Natak, wrote by Vigraha Raj Deva IV, a Chauhan king of 12th century, was found in Ajmer. And the Natak focuses on the royal valor, dharma, and the ideal kingship. And it is the first time, possibly, that a king have created a natak or he have written a drama. Inscriptions throw light on Brahminical and Buddhistic religion, especially in its early phase. Brahmanism coexisted with rival religious tradition without monopolizing political power or cultural expression. Hatibara inscription of Khavel belonging to the 1st century is a good example of this coexistence. The Ayodhya inscription is attributed to the Sunga Kushana period, Kanva period, around 1st century BC to 1st century AD, helps us in understanding the early political and ideological rise of Brahmanism in North India. Unlike earlier Prakrit record, it clearly reflects the growing dominance of Brahminical values, institutions and Sanskrit culture. Kingship is linked with dharma as defined by Brahminical norms. King is supposed to be protector of the Varna order. It also it also indicates to the decline of Shramana dominance, shift in royal patronage patterns. The Nanaghat inscription of Queen Naganika records Vedic sacrifices performed by king. These sacrifices are Ashwamedha, Rasuya, Vajpaya, and it also mentioned lavish dakshina to Brahmin priests. The Nanaghat inscription. The Nanaghat inscription indicates the royal Brahmin alliance. The king gained divine sanction through Vedic rituals. The inscription indicates to the rise of the Vedic rituals. The Brahmanas gained wealth, status, and political influence. And the centrality of the society during this period is Vedic rituals. The inscription emphasized on sacrifice and not on temples or idols. And during this time, the religion is equated with correct ritual performed by right specialists. It also indicates the social hierarchy by Brahmin appear as the indispensable ritual authorities, and it indicates to the reinforcement of Varna ideology. The Nanaghat inscription rituals authority visible and permanent confirms that the Brahmanism was already powerful by the 1st century BC. The Nanaghat inscription also shows it coexisted and competed with Buddhism and Jainism. It also highlights the early role of women in royal religion. The example being the Queen Naganika is front of the helm of the affairs. The inscription also mentions Sankarshan and Vasudeva. The inscription, which is found from Jagatpur, the inscription made by King Shiladitya. The inscription records the land grants to Brahmans, permanent economic endowments, tax-free land donations, which are hereditary and which also indicates to the rise of the institution of Agraharas. Emergence of Vaishnava faith. The inscription also throw important light on the Vaishnava faith. The Vaishnava Garuda pillar inscription of Heliodorus, an ambassador of King Antalcidas, talk about Bhagavad Kalp in this inscription. It mentions moral values like self-control, charity, vigilance, and not sacrifice. The focus during this time shifts from Vedic yajnas to personal devotion. Vasudeva Krishna worship is already well established by this time. The inscription marks an early phase of classical Hindu bhakti tradition. The foreign Greek openly adopts a Brahminical sect, shows Brahminism's capacity to absorb outsiders without ritual barriers. The inscription also emphasizes on dharma and ethical conduct, and it's not press-led ritual. Contrast with the earlier sacrificial Brahminism, which was stated in the Nanaghat inscription. There are other inscriptions found from Mahabalipuram dated to 7th to 8th century belonging to Pallava dynasty, which provides the entire list of avatars in which the Buddha is incorporated as one of the avatars of the Vishnu. Savite inscriptions. The inscriptions of Kalachuri rulers belonging to 6th 7th century AD, as they patronized it, these were the rulers who patronized the Saivism. It records endowment to Shaiva temples, donation to Shaiva ascetics, grant of villages to Shaiva Brahmins, land and revenue also was given, land was granted and revenue was not collected from the donated land. The inscription praises rulers as Parama Maheshwara or the supreme devotees of the Shiva. Another inscription came from Ablur in Karnataka, in which the history of Shaivite faith can be traced. The inscription records legendary religious dispute between Shaiva saint, often identified as Ekanta Ramaya, and Jaina monk. According to the inscription, the Shaiva saints proved the superiority of Shaiva worship through a miracle reviving a dead cow. After this event, Jaina influence in the region is said to decline, and Shaivism becomes dominant at Ablur. It is written in Old Kannada language and Sanskrit language and uses Kannada script. They also throw light on the prevailing cult, the cult of Yaksha and Yakshi. Buddhistic inscription. The maximum of this category are donative in character. This inscription mentions sectarian affiliations also. It refers region's inscription, they refers the region where they came from. During Kushana's large number of inscriptions belonging to Mahayana came into life. The Bhabru or Bairat rock inscription of Ashoka dated to 250 BC. The Prakrit language is used and written in Brahmi scripts. It addressed to the Buddhist Sangha and which also mentions 7 texts read by the Buddhists, namely Vinaya Samukasa, discipline, Alya Vasani, noble dwelling, Anagata Bhayani, fears of the future, Munigatha, saying of the sages, Monia Sutta, Upatisa Pasina, and Laghu Lovada. The other inscription belonging to the category are Indravarman casket inscription belonging to the 100 BC to 100 AD, in which the Kharoshki script was used, and it records a donation made by King Indravarman explicitly in a religious context tied to the Buddhist merit making. Ekottara Gama Pila inscription found in Sri Lanka. It's written in classical Sinhala, Prakrit influenced though, language with ornate literary style dated to 6th regnal year of King Dapalu V, around 10th century AD. The text records royal grants and endowments to Buddhist monasteries, confirming Ekottaragama as an active Buddhist religious center, not only a deity shrine. The inscription in Pali are also reported from Burma, which tells that the Pali was popular in Burma during the period of Ekottaragama. The inscription also throws light on Jainism. In the Udayagiri Khandagiri cave inscription in Orissa, belonging to the 1st century BC, which is written in Prakrit language, describe Jain religious activities and royal support. The Mathura Jain inscription belonging to 100 to 300 AD refers to Tirthankara and Jain donations, important for early Jain iconography. The Savanbelgola inscription in Karnataka, it's a label inscription linked to Bahubali or Gomateshwara around 10th century AD. It's in Old Kannada, mentions Jain monks and royal patrons in the area. Thank you.